Hi there fabric jugglers, it's Babs here from My Fiery Phoenix, and today I'm taking you through the very latest section, which is this ripple section of the blanket for the Carousel CAL from Stylecraft, designed by Sue Pinner. And we've completed our pentagons, we've completed our oddly shaped hexagons, and now we're on to this ripple border, which is multicoloured. And it transfers colours at each point, so you'll be doing colour changes. We do it down and up, and then it's a colour change. So I'm not going to show you how to do trebles. I'm not going to spend hours and hours and hours showing you how to do these 6 layers and 6 rounds on the blanket, but I will take you through my top tips of how to achieve this neatly, nicely and as smoothly as possible, so you can get your lovely carousel blanket completed as quickly as possible. So grab your yarn, grab your printed out copy of the pattern, and let's get started. So now that you've printed out your pattern, here I am with my top 5 tips for creating the ripple border. There's no real need for you to sit there and watch me create yet more rounds of these trebles. By now you will have become a past master at creating trebles. It's not a technique that you're going to need me to give you a tutorial on. However, I will take you through colour changes, and I will take you through how the changeover between left to right occurs and where you leave the gap. So I will show you that, and I will show you the colour change on the tips. But before I get to that point, I'm going to take you through my top tips, my top 5 tips to help you through the ripple as smoothly as possible. The first of which is to run through the pattern and put your yarn in order. So if you know which colours you will be working with in which order, it is so much easier to then just grab and crochet those 2 rows. Grab, change colour, crochet the next 2. Grab, and so on. You get my point. It is, once you get into the routine, it just flies by, and having to stop and then pick out your next yarn is really quite frustrating. So if you can lay them out, if you've got room to lay them out, or just put them next to you on the sofa, then you'll find that it goes so much more smoothly and quickly. Tip 2, check your starting point. So once you've selected your yarn according to the pattern, what I suggest you do, if you're not instantly sure of where to start, is to lay them out so that you can see around the edge of your design, and you can spot if there are any colours that are going to become duplicates. Now at this point you'd see that we've got the turquoise matching with the turquoise, so you'd maybe want to consider changing that out. Once I've got everything laid out according to the first round, I then picked up the blanket and turned the blanket within the outer wheel of that yarn, so that I'm keeping everything in the order initially suggested in the pattern, but I'm moving the blanket within that circle so that I altered the start point, so that I don't have any duplicate colours. That may be something that doesn't bother you, in which case you can start anywhere you like, but if you want to avoid those duplicate colours, then please test it out first so that you don't get frustrated once you're part way through. Tip number 3 is to very, very carefully check out your initial stitch counts. Make sure that you really do have 24 stitches on each side. It's very easy to make a mistake, very easy to have slipped up somewhere along the line, but this is your point. The very first row that you attach, this is the point that you can fix that, so that you don't need to worry about it for the rest of the ripple. So please, I very strongly suggest that you count up all of the trebles that you've got on the edges of your hexes, just to make sure that you have the full 24, so that once you get into your stride again, there's nothing else that's going to start flummoxing you or slowing you down. Tip number 4 is to do with the point of the ripples. Now most of the ripples will be joined, in fact all but one will be joined in this fashion. Now the colour will change, but you will have a treble, 2 chains and a treble. or indeed a treble, 3 chains and a treble. But the point is that you'll have chains leading smoothly on to another treble, which means that when you go to hook, you will see, if I can get this in the right place, you will see that there is that tiny hidden stitch that's available to you, and you will need to be using that. So you will chain once in the gap, and then you will chain once starting once in each stitch, starting in that very small and often missed gap there. Now what I've done is I've actually created, if I can find it, here we are, what you will have on your very first point, which is the opposite. Instead of having a colour change within the trebles and then smoothly running on to the next stitch, what you will have is your very first stitch created here, and then you will finish with your chain stitches, which means that you do not have that little stitch to go into. So I strongly suggest, and you can test this and double check your counting yourself, but rather than doing a single stitch and then one into the top of every stitch below, you'll need to do one treble, an extra treble that you would be putting in the top of that tiny little stitch, and then one into the top of every other treble in that side. If you don't do that, I find the natural way to crochet it by this size of project is just on my lap. That is a personal choice, but it's down to you. But I find it's much easier to actually crochet with it sitting on my lap and keeping me toasty warm. So I'm just going to join and have 2 slip stitches. No, I'm going to join and have 2 chains for my first treble, and then I'm going to work into this teeny tiny gap, which will not be available next time round, because when I finish this round I will be joining with 2 chains. So when I join with that 2 chain, that was the last tip that I was discussing. It's this tiny space is not going to be available to me, and I'm now going to just simply run down with a total of 24 trebles, which should leave me with a gap of 1 stitch at the bottom. So I shall just crack on with those and meet you back at the corner. And so here we are, and we have our, you have to excuse Sophie, I'm sorry, we've got our full row of 24 stitches, and we are now at the corner and we are missing 1 stitch. We're going to miss 1 stitch on the other side, and then continue on crocheting 24 trebles back up the other side, and this gives us the turning gap that allows that to close as a ripple. So I will see you back up at the other end. So here we are with 23 along this edge, and we should now be at the point where we're moving into our chain space. And so we're now going to start to create our final treble, and Sophie's brought a squeaky toy in, so I apologise for that. So we go in and we pull the yarn through the first pair, and then we're going to move over to our new colour. So fold that over, pull through the final 2 loops to complete the treble, and then we're going to chain 3 as we're going into the chain space, 1, 2, 3, and we then continue on with a treble to close that chain space. Now what I'm going to do is just trim away the excess, and then as we work our way down the next side, we'll be tidying away all of those. And as you can see, we've got our first stitch to go in here, and we're going to come down, tidying these away, and that is our successful colour change. Just put that to one side for a moment, and there you can see our colour change. So we've gone halfway through with 1 colour of our final triple, and then we've changed colour, pulled that loop through the last 2 stitches, and then we've chained 3 to come down the next side. And it really is that simple. That is the entire process. The only difference with this chain and the chain that we'll have at the very joining point is that we will have the 3 in this colour. Whatever our final colour is, we'll have a chain 3 joining in. But that is the technique. That's all there is to it. You will manage to do this without a squeaky ball in the background, so yours will be a smoother and quieter experience, I'm sure. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting quite disappointed that I won't have much more. We've got 1 week left, which will be the final edging, and so I'll see you in 2 weeks' time when you've completed your 6 rounds of trebles, and we will finish up this blanket together. So I shall see you soon. Bye for now.